And away we go. Monday edition of the show, all across America, SportsMap Radio. We are worldwide on the SportsMap Radio app. It's the day after Christmas. You know what they call it? Producer, engineer extraordinaire Brian McDonald working the he's working the board. You didn't even let me finish doing the introduction. Working the board, engineering it, producing it from Houston for me in Palm Springs, where it is not cold like it is around the rest of America. Sorry, the rest of America. It was 78 and sunny on Christmas Day here. Just saying. That California life. No, what I was going to ask, do you know what the Monday after Christmas is? What is it called? It's called Boxing Day. No, it's not. Well, I don't know if it's a UK thing, but it's Boxing Day because after the day after Christmas, everybody's going to return their stuff. So they're boxing it up. Return. It's the biggest after Black Friday. It's the busiest day in retail the other way. They're getting all the stuff back that people got from Aunt Gina that they didn't want. Yep, when she guessed wrong on which sweater you wanted. Absolutely, she's returning it. So that's what's going on today. Glad to have you all with us. A busy 3 hours is ahead. Really, can I let people behind the curtain here real quick because I only got a second anyway in this segment. Just before the show starts, I set up the background for the program for those watching on video because you can listen on SportsMap Radio affiliates across America, SportsMap Radio app, but you could also watch the show on Twitch. Well, tonight, we went to go pull up the pull-up that goes behind me that says SportsMap Radio, and the whole thing just decided to come out. So at some point during the show, it may just fall on my head, which will make for, I guess, something funny for somebody. The Denver Broncos are going to have a new head coach because Nathaniel Hackett's out. We're talking about it next on the Cash In. It's SportsMap Radio. Barely. Yeah, it could fall on my head. No, it's like, it's teetering. It's teetering. Yeah. It's my own fault for asking my husband to do it. Because he didn't know that it could be a little quirky. And he just pulled it up thinking he could just pull. And when he pulled it, just half of it decided to come out of the roll. So, yeah, it's great. It's great. Keep rolling, rolling, rolling. We got Nick Ferguson coming up in 30 minutes live. I was going to get I got a Dolphins guy that I can get anytime, but to talk about Tua, but I'm going to save him till tomorrow because I know getting guests this week is going to be kind of a hairy given that it's a holiday week. See, the people looking on the stream right now, it looks totally normal. But if they could see, like, below, it'd be kind of funny. Good times. Good times. I'm going to save Tua to start the next hour. Whew. How are the Chargers only up 7-3 in this game? Somebody has got to explain to me. Oh, they just scored a touchdown. It's 13-3. By the way, that was a rhetorical question. I've been watching the game. I know. Oy vey. So during the break, which if you watch the show on Twitch, you could actually listen to at least half of the conversation between me and producer engineer extraordinaire Brian McDonald back in Houston in Master Control. And I said to him, it was a rhetorical question, but I said to him, hey Brian, how is this a 7-3 game? And I said, actually, it's 13-3. And he literally started to answer with every detail of this football game as if I hadn't been watching even a single second of it. I got a whole recap of the game that I just have been watching. It's great. I'd rather you be deeply invested in the show than the game. Okay. Yeah. How much money are we talking? Oh, come on. If it's not for money, who cares? All right. Well, $200. That's like a week's pay for you. That's a great deal. Okay. You work on this show. You have no pride. Let's be honest. 1-800-224-2004. Good to get started with you guys tonight. 800-224-2004. Question of the night. Just going on something I was talking about with Brian again during the break, because we do a whole nother show during the break. A lot of people don't know Monday is Boxing Day around America, around the world. And I think it's a European thing, or a Canadian thing. I don't know. But anyway, Boxing Day is the day where people go and take their stuff back that they got for Christmas that they didn't want. I want to hear from anybody at 1-800-224-2004 or on Twitter at the back page. The one present, if you've got something you're returning today, I want to know what it is. Might not be anybody. Who knows? Maybe everybody got what they want. But if you're returning something today or you have returned something today, I want to know what it is. I didn't get anything this year that required returning because everything I got, I wanted. So haven't returned it. Although we had one friend. Should I share this story on the air? We had one friend. We went to a Christmas dinner last night, and I was told, hey, so-and-so is bringing gifts for everybody. So make sure you bring something. You know, it was one of those warnings that, hey, so-and-so is giving something to everybody, so make sure you bring something for them. And we have a little bag of stuff that we bought that was just in case we had to give gifts, a thing. Nothing too expensive, but certainly nothing cheap. Not anything from the 99-cent store or anything like that. So we give our stuff, and this person gave us something relatively nice. And then they gave us a box, and I opened it up, and I said to my significant other, I said, what is this? And he says, oh, he gave us 2 COVID kits, hand sanitizer. I was like, what was he just unloading all of his emergency COVID stuff on us? Like, who gives that stuff out for Christmas? I was like, okay, but we're not returning it. We're going to keep it just in case, because you never know, could get really bad and you might need it again. Nathaniel Hackett's out of a job in Denver, and I can't say I'm surprised, but you have to wonder. And I was listening to Shannon Sharp this morning and you got to remember, Shannon Sharp is a former Denver Bronco. He is still considered royalty by that organization. So when he went off this morning, and he did so before Hackett got fired, He talked about the fact that Hackett has to go, but he also said something interesting that if this continues to go south the final 2 weeks, that Russell Wilson might wind up going one way or another, whether it's they bench him, whether it's they have a conversation with him and say, look, fine, we'll pay you, but you're not playing because we can't have somebody this bad playing for us. Because you cannot simply fire Nathaniel Hackett and think it's going to fix the problem. You could hire Vince Lombardi to be the coach of this team right now. It's not going to matter. They stink. They're good defensively, and they've got absolutely nothing going offensively. Maybe somebody out there looking for a job who's a former offensive guru, who is a great offensive head coach, thinks they can fix Russell Wilson and fix whatever's wrong with this team. Say a Sean Payton. And in that case, you give next year another shot if you're this new ownership group in Denver. But sans having somebody who feels that way when they look at this team and look at this roster and piece it all together, I don't know how, if you are the Denver Broncos at this point, you view Russell Wilson as part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem. Because right now, there isn't anything in Russell Wilson that tells you he's part of the solution. You know what? I got to tell you something. Not if he can't play the position anymore. And I get it, but okay, fine. But here's the problem. If the guy's not good, so you're just going to suck for the next 4 years because he's under contract for that long, or 6 years, or whatever the hell it is? No. I'm not saying you can't, but I think that is the conversation. I think that has to be part of it has to at least be a possibility. You cannot continue. Look, just because you got it wrong in evaluating him while he was in Seattle and thinking, hey, we're going to trade our entire draft franchise. We're going to trade all of our draft chips. We're going to push them all into the middle of the table, and then we're going to flip over our cards and find out we have deuce 3, that we played the hand blind, and when we turned it over, we had deuce 3. If you want to go and do that as an organization, go ahead. But you can't compound the problem that is the Denver Broncos by continuing to play somebody that can no longer play the position. And do I think he's gone from average quarterback to a guy that potentially can't play the position anymore? Maybe. I think you have to, at least as an organization, acknowledge the fact that it's possible. Because right now, there isn't anything in what you watch with Russell Wilson that would tell you, oh yeah, this is a guy that could still play the position. The Rams are not a defensive juggernaut. That team, my God, that Denver team just flat out quit yesterday. And you got Wilson throwing interceptions all over the place. Baker Mayfield looking like the next coming. I mean, think about Denver. I mean, this is remarkable. Think about Denver for the last few years. The only conversation you had about this team was, oh my God, we need a quarterback. Oh, if we just had a quarterback, right? Our defense is great, and it has been. If you go look at their defensive numbers over the last few years, the team's been great defensively. It's never been an issue of whether or not we're good enough defensively. Even though yesterday the team just completely quit. And quite honestly, I can't blame them. You've had a whole season of this defense trying to prop up an absolutely horrific offense with a guy like Russell Wilson, who's, on the sideline playing rah-rah, and after the game saying, well, we're going to keep working at it and trying to say all the right things. But the fact is, it's putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. I mean, this organization right now is in complete shambles. Complete shambles. And can you imagine being the owner that just paid how much money did the Broncos sell for? Broncos sale price NFL. Let's see. They sold for $4.65 billion. What do you think about this, Brian? What do you think about this? They just sold, this man, CEO of Ariel Investments, Melody Hobson, agreed to purchase the Broncos for $4.65 billion. And you walk through the door and you find this mess. And you know what? If you've got $4.65 billion, I got news for you. The $250 million you're paying Russell Wilson doesn't seem like a lot. When you walk through the door and find out it's this bad, I mean, my God, They just basically said to Nathaniel Hackett, we're going to pay you for 3 years or 4 years, whatever the hell deal he had. We're going to pay you for 3 years to sit on the beach. Now, maybe he goes and winds up being a coordinator somewhere or something like that. But they just decided, you know what? That's how bad they view this situation. So as Shannon Sharpe said today, and he said it before Hackett got fired, which leads me to believe that Shannon Sharpe knows something. You know, you could say what you want about Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless and the BS of them barking back and forth and yelling at each other like, you know, high school students, and that's all fine. But if there's one thing Shannon Sharpe knows about, he knows what's going on in Denver. He has his finger on the pulse of that organization. He knows people on the inside. I mean, my God, he was a teammate of John Elway's. And John Elway is still very high up in that organization. You know? So to me, it doesn't seem implausible that if it goes the way it's been going over the last, 15 games, and it goes that way for the last 2, that the organization takes a hard look and says, okay, if we can't win with Russell Wilson, you can't compound a $250 million mistake by continuing to put a $250 million mistake out there. I agree. Might not be. Maybe it's something in free agency. But right now, I mean, look, there's going to be any number of guys. Baker Mayfield's going to be out there. I mean, there's any number of options that are potentially out there during the offseason in free agency. And if you as an organization determine that Russell Wilson can no longer play you cannot simply tell me that this all goes at the feet of Nathaniel Hackett, that the reason Russell Wilson has been as craptastic as he has been for 14 games this year, why through 14 games this year he has a QB rating of completion, 12 touchdowns to 9 interceptions this year, only throwing for 60% completion percent. You cannot convince me that the reason all of that is going on is Nathaniel Hackett. You can't. It's not plausible. Players win, coaches lose. I get it. But you cannot convince me that this is all at the feet of Nathaniel Hackett or the offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak or anybody else. There's going to have to be a reckoning at the end of the year that includes Russell Wilson. There has to be. And again, I'm not saying they're going to decide to move on from Russell Wilson. I'm simply saying when I heard Shannon Sharpe today be so adamant about the fact that Hackett was gone before Hackett got fired and that Wilson could be as well, it tells me he knows something. I don't know what it is, but he knows something that's going on within that organization. Nick Ferguson knows something about that organization too. He played for the Denver Broncos. He's a former NFL safety. He hosts the Touchdown Denver podcast. He's a friend of this program. He's a friend of mine. He will join us coming up 16 minutes from now. We'll get his thoughts on the mess that is the Denver Broncos. And there's no other way to get around it. It is an absolute mess. We will keep you updated on what's going on with Monday Night Football. The Chargers and the Colts. Oh, it's a commercial. Gosh darn it. 13-3, Chargers lead the Colts. We'll update you on the live betting as the third quarter has just come to an end in Indianapolis. Colts have the football. A huge 4th and 1 coming up on the Chargers 12. We'll tell you what goes on there as we continue the show. The phone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You could tweet at the show at the back page. If you were Broncos ownership, I know it's easy to tell you, what would you do with somebody else's money and $250 million? But wouldn't you have to consider the idea of moving on from Russell Wilson at this point? I mean, you've had enough of a sampling to figure out as to whether or not the guy could still play the game or not. It's an interesting question. We will proffer it to our man Nick Ferguson coming up a little later on. Stick around. We'll tell you what's going on in the Monday Night Football game as we roll along, just getting started on this Monday edition of The Cash In. It's SportsMap Radio. Like I said, Skip just let Shannon go today. He just let him go on a rant. It was about 2.5, 3 minutes. And Shannon said it. And I don't question whether or not he knows, people within that organization and some of the decision-making process. I know it seems crazy, but, they just fired a head coach before he even finished his first season. Yeah, but who, other than Sean Payton, unless it's Sean Payton, who would you trust that's out there that says they could fix this? Jason Garrett? No. Who? Yeah, if there's somebody out there in free agency. They get the first down? Yeah. Oh, God, they lost it on downs. Jesus. God, the Colts are so bad. That's the other conversation we have to have. There's no way Jeff Saturday could be this team's head coach next year. No, I'll call him. No, it's next. It's the 40. You dullard. You're fired. 30 seconds. It's 12 minutes and 30 seconds. Come on, Brian. Hey, by the way, what's the temperature there? Oh, it's glorious. Only 64 here. I just asked Brian what the temperature was in Houston. He's like, it's in the high 30s. It's 64 here. Oh. Flip that around and you got the temperature here. 64. I wish I could find that audio of Shannon from this morning. I'm sure I can, but he was, like I said, he really gave you the sense that he knew what was going on inside that organization, that they fired Hackett literally like an hour and a half later, I think, after he went on his rant. So I think he knew. He had to have been tipped off that it was coming. And by the way, speaking of all that, and I won't go into too long a rant on this now because I want to get into the live betting stuff on this Monday night game, which is early in the fourth quarter. Colts fail on that 4th and 1 deep in Chargers territory. Chargers get it back up 13-3 with 13:41 to go. If we're talking about Hackett and how, he can no longer be the coach of the Denver Broncos, we have to give up on this pipe dream that Jeff Saturday is the guy that's going to turn around the Indianapolis Colts too. And I get this is not all his problem, the dysfunction that was in place before he got there. And I think they tried to sprinkle some fairy dust on it, which was in the form of Jeff Saturday and the idea that, well, Jeff Saturday's going to come in. He's a former Colt and he's Colts royalty and he's going to come in here and fix it. And now you've seen what that's turned into. I mean, the absolute spit show that is the Indianapolis Colts under Jeff Saturday. And the only thing that he's been good at is challenges. I think he's 5 for 5 on challenges this year. That's it. Yeah, he's the king. He's the king of challenges, man. He's got a good eye to throw that red flag. You can make him in charge of that. Make him in charge of the replay booth. Colts trail 13-3 at home tonight. The live betting on this just went away, so I'll give you the latest numbers. According to FanDuel Sportsbook, which is who we use for our live betting on the show. But I'm curious to see what Nick Ferguson thinks. I know he's probably going to push back the same way Brian, our producer engineer extraordinaire in Houston, did about the idea of them potentially benching or just letting Russell Wilson rot there. Could you find? Here's another question: Could you find somebody to deal him to? And maybe you have to eat some of the contract. Maybe you have to eat a lot of it, but it's still better than eating all of it and not having him play. Because again, he is not a capable NFL quarterback right now. But again, all it takes is one person to get the ear of the owner and say, "Oh, I could fix it. Here's why it's not working." And just say it in rich dummy terms, that an NFL owner would understand. And you know what? Sean Payton says he could fix it. Now we're going to go give Sean Payton a ton of money while we're paying Nathaniel Hackett. And that's going to fix it. And this is how you wind up with organizations that go a decade without winning anything. That go from being Super Bowl winners with the likes of John Elway and Peyton Manning and then can't win anything forever. This is how it happens. 1-800-224-2004. You want the anatomy of a failed organization? Sometimes all it takes is one decision, too. And let's be honest. Again, it's the Teddy KGB moment with Mike in Rounders. The very beginning of the movie, if you've ever seen the movie Rounders, it is the Rounders moment with Teddy KGB and Mike, where Mike thinks he's got the best hand in the world. He's already thinking about, booking his room at the Mirage and playing in the World Series of Poker for $10K and the big $10K buy-in. He's already got it all laid out. His whole future's in front of him. He's looking at the cards. He's looking at what's on the table, and he's figured out he's got the best hand. He pushes it all in. And then Teddy KGB flips over a better hand. And Mike's lost everything. Yep. All the cards in the middle, all the chips in the middle of the table. Your whole bankroll is gone. That's the Denver Broncos. They put the whole bankroll on Russell Wilson. And then they realized, oops, I misread my hand. I had 2-3 off. I didn't have pocket threes with, a 3 on the board. It's that kind of bad. It looks that kind of bad right now for this organization. And I don't know what the solution is. But you simply cannot continue to do more of the same. So I applaud and understand the idea to get rid of Nathaniel Hackett. But if you think that's the only solution, and that's the only thing, the only fix to this, that fan base in Denver isn't stupid. They're going to realize real quickly that Nathaniel Hackett isn't really the problem. He's just a small piece of the problem. Players win, coaches lose. 1-800-224-2004. All right, the live betting is up as the Chargers look to put this game away up 10, 13-3. It isn't pretty, but you know what? If you're the Chargers, just win right now. You saw so many playoff contenders lose this weekend. Some in dramatic fashion, some not so dramatic, that you just have to figure out a way to put a W in the ledger if you're the Chargers in these games. There are no easy wins every week in this league. Go ask Tennessee after they just lost to the Texans. Best 2-win team in football, those Houston Texans. The Chargers are up 13-3. It isn't beautiful, but you just sign up and take it. You got 10-13 to go in the fourth quarter, and if you're the Chargers, just count down the minutes. Figure out a way to shorten this game, extend the drives, do whatever you have to do. Just get out of there with a win. And right now, the live betting on the game is the Colts getting 13.5. They are plus 2,200 on the money line if you're looking for value. And 25.5 is the total in the game. If I had a leaning right now, it would be over 25.5. and I'd probably take the Colts plus 13.5 because this game feels like it's got a garbage touchdown and an onside kick that'll mean something with, under a minute to go written all over it. Because that's what happens in all these NFL games. There's always a moment late in the game where there's an onside kick that's going to decide whether or not the team on the losing end has a shot. And, of course, as we know, most onside kicks aren't recovered, so you know how that's going to go. All right, Nick Ferguson on the other side, former NFL safety, knows a thing or two about the Broncos. He joins us next on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Let me know when we have a minute left with us on a Thursday edition of the show. Final show of the week, by the way. We are off on Friday. You know the movie A Christmas Story? I ever tell you I'm friendly with Scott Farkas, the bully in the movie? Yeah, Zach Ward. Yeah, No. He's just I got connected to him when I was working for NBC Sports Radio through a friend. I used to get him on around Christmas time. I regret not getting him on last week. Would have been fun. Bumpusses, sons of bitches. Touchdown? Yeah. This game's definitely going over. That 25.5 is golden. Oh, baby. The show continues on this Monday, 20 minutes till the top of the hour. Get back to the calls and tweets and all that good stuff at 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. On Twitter at the back page. You can watch the show on Twitch right now, Jason Page 77. The podcast as well, the Cash In podcast, where you will definitely hear this conversation with my man, Nick Ferguson. Does a terrific job, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, and friend of the program, dare I say. All right, Nick, I was listening to Shannon Sharp earlier today, and I thought, I get the sense he's somebody that probably knows a thing or two about the Broncos organization, like you, somebody that played for the team and knows people inside the organization. So when I hear him go off this morning about an hour and a half before Nathaniel Hackett gets fired. And not only say that Nathaniel Hackett has to be fired, which he would later be fired, but also this idea of, you know what, maybe Russell Wilson just isn't the quarterback for this team. I don't know how that happens with the amount of money he's owed, the dead cap space. We've talked about it ad nauseum here already in the first 34 minutes of the show. But is there a scenario that exists? And look, if you've got $4.65 billion to buy the Denver Broncos, you've got FU money. You've got money where you could basically say, you know what? I know it's $250 million, but if we can't win with Russell Wilson, we can't compound the mistake of paying $250 million for Russell Wilson by putting him out there knowing he can't win. Is there a scenario that exists where he's not the quarterback next year?
Not for me, and I know that's kind of low-hanging fruit for me when you say, well, get rid of Russell. I've heard that all season long of that he is washed. And I've got a chance to see this team up close and personal. Had a chance to go into the locker room on a daily basis and talk to a lot of guys. I mean, what the outside media and the local media have said about Russell, a lot of that stuff isn't true. And it was used to just stir up controversy. And, I mean, I can't tell you, from my kids' friends to I'm going on a school visit, Jason, and some kid comes up to me, hey, you're a former Bronco. I'm like, yeah. And then he rattles off all these things about Russell Wilson that I know that he's heard from somewhere else. And I get it. Russ hasn't been the same quarterback as he was in years past. And that's what the Broncos thought they were going to get. And no one didn't have a crystal ball to foresee that things would go this poorly.
Seattle did.
See, the problem in Seattle was, hey, they didn't have a run game, and then Russell wanted to be involved more as far as what the personnel was taking place. And I don't blame any quarterback that your legacy and your stats are built on who's around you. If you are a quarterback, you want to know if the team is going out to get you adequate wide receivers. What are you going to do in the run game? And oh, by the way, what 5 guys are going to be protecting me? That wasn't the case in Seattle, and that's why Russell wanted to be more involved, and Pete didn't want that, right? And here's what I tell players when they come into this league. When you first come in, it's like a Jay-Z song. First they love you, then they hate you, then they love you again. That's exactly what happens to you as a player, and that's what's happened to Russell. So do I think his skills have diminished? No. My thing is that the system hasn't really fit him well in the offensive line. It told you from the very beginning. And I got a stat sheet right here. I've been charting plays all season long. Even with the starters in the lineup, they were still having issues protecting him. Now, I'm not going to say those are the only reason and then just kind of absolve Russell of any wrongdoing. No. And watching him on Christmas Day throw 3 interceptions, I was frustrated and I was upset because I felt as though Russell was going to press too much, trying to feed Courtland Sutton. And that is exactly what he did, and that kind of led to the demise of the Broncos on Christmas Day.
Talking with Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, Touchdown Denver podcast. He hosts it, giving us some time on the show. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like you're absolving him a little. It sounds like because look, you know the saying, players win, coaches lose. You know, and to me, it feels like, you know, you could bring Sean Payton. So let me ask you this then. Sean Payton gets in touch with the owner of the Broncos. Says, you know what, give me this much money. I've watched, like you, he's watched Russell Wilson. He knows the game. Offensively, obviously very smart. And he says, I can fix it. You think they go hire Sean Payton and give him whatever he wants?
Absolutely, and here's why.
Do you think he's right? Do you think Sean Payton can fix it?
Yeah, I definitely believe so. And once again, here's why. Let's look at what he was able to do in New Orleans, right? With Drew Brees, that quarterback that the Chargers said, you know what, we're going to kick him to the curb, you know, because we have Phillip Rivers, right? But with Drew Brees, who's not a 6'1" quarterback, he's not that mobile, they were able to amass a lot of chunk plays in that passing game. They built that offensive line. They added wide receivers outside the numbers and the tight end position. And here's what I know about Sean Payton. Sean Payton is a Bill Parcells type of guy. I played for Bill Parcells. That's a no-nonsense type of guy. And he's going to come in and instill accountability. if the Broncos were to go in that direction. And here's the great part about it, right? Look at the Jets and the issues that they're having with Zach Wilson, drafting quarterbacks in the first round, thinking that's going to be the future of your organization. No, the idea is finding a proven guy that still has gas in his tank. You tweak a couple of things here and there. Are you telling me, right? Really think about this. Looking at the offensive line the way that it is, looking at having injuries across the board, just like a lot of teams, the Rams are included as well, that Sean Payton can't come in and take a veteran quarterback and become a better team. He did the same thing when Drew Brees hurt his hand. Teddy Bridgewater came in and Teddy went, 5-0 or 5-1 in his starts. I really don't count that game in Los Angeles because he was coming in as a backup. But look what he did with Teddy Bridgewater. And I would dare to say that Russell Wilson is a better quarterback and a quarterback option than Teddy Bridgewater. So how could anyone dispute the fact that Sean Payton would come in and he would get this thing right?
I don't know. What
do you don't know?
Look, what I tell you is what I watch with my eyes. You can give me, and I'm not necessarily into the whole thing of, whether his teammates like him or not or any of that stuff. You know what guys hate? They hate losing. So I don't necessarily buy into the idea that this is something that can't be turned around because, the guys in the locker room are tired of him or don't like him or don't go to his birthday party when Sierra invites him. I'm not necessarily saying that. It's just hard to watch the on-field product, which I know you're going to say is part of it is play calling and the offensive scheme and all of that. It's hard for me to watch him and say, this looks like a guy that's not just a year removed from Seattle. He looks like he's so far removed from his best days in Seattle that observational fact tells me that you can't win with him. Now, you're going to tell me you can if you get the right system and the right guys around him, that he's at a stage in his career where, and I always say this about NFL quarterbacks. I'm sure I've said it to you. Two types of quarterbacks in the league. There's quarterbacks that can elevate the receivers around them, and then there's quarterbacks who need receivers to elevate them. Now we're starting to say, I think, that Wilson might be the quarterback that needs better receivers, better players around him to elevate him, whereas maybe 4 years ago, he was a guy that could elevate lesser talented players, in his game. Am I wrong in looking at it that way?
No, you're not, because that is what your eyes are telling you. And I can't tell you wrong for what you see. But when I look at the situation, when we look at a guy that has had a lot of accuracy over his career, ball placement was a key. To me, wide receiver and quarterback go hand in hand. You need one, or you can't have one without the other. So when I see Russell Wilson, he's thrown some dimes this year, but he's thrown some bad balls this year, and so has a lot of quarterbacks. Once again, I go back to the build-out of the scheme. The scheme wasn't fit for him. And I know the scheme because, one, I practiced against it under Mike Shanahan, and two, I coached against it being a member of the 49ers organization to know exactly how you start to get this system going. This is a system that's predicated on running the ball to pass the ball, not pass the ball to run the pass. This Broncos offensive line hasn't done a great job in pass pro, and they definitely haven't done a great job in run blocking. So much so, a week ago against, I think it was Arizona Cardinals, they had to start pulling their guards and offensive linemen because they could not pass pro just to give them some kind of relief. I'm just saying this. There's no way that you tell me that Russell Wilson over the past couple of years under Brian Schottenheimer and some other offensive coordinators come to Denver Broncos and forget how to play the quarterback position. I would find that hard to believe. If you told me that he was concussed several times and maybe that was a problem, maybe I will buy that. But I just know how system and quarterback have to be on the same page. If they're not, it's going to be a problem. And think about what we know. When we think about the first game of the season against the Seattle Seahawks, they opted to take the ball out of Russell's hands in favor of Matt McManus kicking a long field goal. And then they had to switch offensive coordinators mid-season, Jason, mid-season. So, yes, I'm not saying that it's not just Russ. He has his faults. But come on, let's be totally honest about the situation. How many quarterbacks have we seen struggle this year because bad offensive line, they can't run the ball, right? And you're watching the game tonight when you talk about the Colts going against the Chargers. I mean, they're on Nick Foles. He's thrown 3 interceptions, right? Let's be totally honest about this situation, right? So Matt Ryan was benched because no Jonathan Taylor. They couldn't protect him. he was turning the ball over. Now you insert, Nick Foles, same thing. What's happening with Tom Brady in Tampa? The same thing. And you look at Aaron Rodgers, that bad guy Aaron Rodgers, he's going through the same thing. It's no different with Tua Tagovailoa, right? It's the same thing. These are quarterback issues, right? But I would rather have a guy like Mike McDaniels than having Nathaniel Hackett because I've been around it. I've coached alongside him, so I know what he's capable of. So if the Broncos are able to bring in a guy that can hold these guys accountable and he has a great scheme, boom, the Broncos are off and running.
This is a new ownership group, so I don't know how well you know the intricacies of what's going on the inside in terms of ownership. But do they strike you as the type that would basically go to Sean Payton and hand him a blank check?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And that's what they did with the Russell deal. Because everyone's saying, okay, well, hey, look at Russell. They're paying him so much money. I mean, Joe Buck said it himself, right? They're paying Russell so much money. That's what they do in the NFL. They pay quarterbacks a lot of money. And sometimes they pay bad quarterbacks a lot of money. So let's not start there, right? Let's just talk about the situation the Broncos were in. They were tired of the quarterback speed dating carousel. So they say, okay, we finally traded for a guy that we know is a proven guy in this league. He has 2 more years on his deal. We're hoping that he plays well, but we want to go ahead and get him and ink him to a deal before maybe Lamar Jackson signed his deal, and then now we have to pay him more money. So no one really saw this happening the way that it played out. It's unfortunate for the Broncos. They were in a position where they couldn't wait, and they had to sign Russ.
Before I go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, because you know people in this organization, you've been around it enough. Did you know Ronnie Hillman?
Yes, I actually was part of the Broncos fellowship coaching when they went to Super Bowl 50. So I got a chance to know him during the coaching internship. And you know what, man? It's sad. The guy was only 31 years old. Gone too soon. We've heard that all too frequently. And I just think about, my fondest memory of him, man, is his smile. It's just like Demaryius Thomas. When those two guys came in the room, no matter what was going on, the one thing you saw was their big smile. And Broncos country, man, they're hurting. And this is why it's crazy. We lose DT a year ago. Then we lose Ronnie. Then we watch what happened to the Broncos on Christmas Day, and then the firing of Nathaniel Hackett, man. So it's a bad time here in Broncos country.
Nick Ferguson, I always appreciate your input and your insights. You can come at it from a level that I could never in my wildest imagination come at it from, and that's why I have you on the show. Nick Ferguson is former NFL safety, Touchdown Denver podcast host. Check him out there as well. Thank you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Go.
Oh, God. No Vikings. No. After what they... No, I can't. I got to go. We'll wrap up the hour next. Oh, you're killing me with the skull. Come on, man.
You thought I was going to allow you to escape? I had to slide that in right before the break.
So bad. It's so bad. Giants had that. Daniel Jones played so good. And, man, it's so frustrating. So frustrating. Because I thought they had that game. I really did. Did.
At the end of the day, not how you start, it's how you finish. And they pulled it out. The one thing I was upset with the Giants about, because it cost me in fantasy, they could not stop TJ Hawkinson. I'm like, just find him. Stop him. He's killing you right now.
Dude, that touchdown catch he made was unreal. That was one of the best catches this year. That was in traffic. I mean, the throw was great. I can't stand Kirk Cousins. The throw was great. Ugh. Worst part is the Giants are in – it's such a crappy situation, because if the playoffs started today, the Giants get the 49ers, and the the Commanders would get the Vikings. And you know what? If the situation's reversed, I would love to give another shot to the Giants to play that Vikings team again. They can beat them. They can't beat the Niners. They're going to get their faces blown off. They got no chance.
No chance. And by the way, D'Amico Ryan is my former teammate in Houston, and he could get a look here in Denver as a possible coach.
Yeah, I hope they get Peyton, because other than that, I don't know who you're bringing in there that's going to be able to fix Russell. I really don't.
To me, you have to bring in Peyton, because you still need impact wide receivers. Cortland Sutton isn't the guy these days thought. The wide receiver one now is Jerry Judy.
It's true. It's true.
So,
all right, my man. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
All right, be good.
Good to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
I love that guy. It's my guy. That's the guy. If I was going to do there's only a couple of people I could see Boy, the Colts going down with a whimper. I'm glad we didn't do any live betting on this game. Yeesh. Gotta say, I'm doing all right in my college football bowl pool that I'm in. Our buddy Matt, who's a listener of the show, has me in his pool, and I was in fourth going into yesterday or today, something like that. So got a shot to get into the money. Nothing wrong with that. Thank you again to Nick Ferguson for stopping by the show. Love talking with him. Former NFL safety, and I really enjoyed getting also a quick anecdote on Ronnie Hillman, who passed away last week at the age of 31. It's just like, ugh, give me a break. My poor dog got his face ripped off Saturday night, like Hannibal Lecter style, at his dog sitter. Yeah, my dog. Yeah. A French bulldog attacked my puggle, and they got into a fight, and my dog did not come out on the right end of it. Just wasn't good. I spent half of my afternoon at the vet today. Yeah, getting his face repaired. He's got like 3 wounds on his left ear. He's got 2 puncture wounds under the ear and like the left side of his face. He's got bite marks in his mouth, which means they were like mouth to mouth. Oh, it was great. Yeah. Nice 4-figure bill coming there. I'm not paying for it, but it's going to suck for the person who has to, that's for sure. Cha-ching. He's going to be all right. He's a battle. He's a warrior. He'll get through it. Another hour of the cash-in is right around the corner on SportsMap Radio. Happy holidays. Yeah, he got it. He got beat up bad. He was at my dog sitter, and the Frenchie and him have been there together like plenty of times. And the guy said he turned his back, and next thing he knew, he turned around, and the Frenchie was just all over him. Like, he got it bad. It's the worst I've ever seen him. But the funny thing was the sitter, no, he didn't see what precipitated it. And the sitter said, oh, he just got a little nick on his ear, and I put some Neosporin on it. Well, when I came home, I started feeling the dog. I felt 3 wounds in his ear. Then I found another wound in his neck, which was an open puncture wound. And then when they shaved him today, when they shaved the spot where that wound was, they found a second puncture wound. And then I saw him licking, and he kept doing this thing where he was like licking the ear. And I'm like, oh, maybe he's having an allergic reaction to something. I don't know. I opened his mouth, and he's got 2 sores, one on each side of his mouth from where the dog bit him inside his mouth. Yeah, he got it bad. He got it real bad. Dog sitter's paying for it. Oh, dog sitter didn't even like hesitate. Dog sitter was like, send me the bill. It's done. Well, he's got insurance for it. He literally is a professional dog sitter. But yeah, they do. But his insurance company isn't going to like seeing the 4-figure bill that he's going to be getting. We were just glad we were able to get him into his actual personal vet today, as opposed to the emergency hospital, the animal hospital, because then they bang you even harder. Yeah. Well, we got on the wait list early this morning, and somebody called out, and we were able to get him in at noon. Yeah, he's got the cone of shame on his head right now to keep him from scratching at it. Yeah, it'll heal. It'll heal. It's just going to take some time. It's going to take a couple of weeks. Just sucks. Well, the funny thing is, this dog sitter is going to stop taking dogs as of January 3rd because he's selling his house and moving to Costa Rica. Yeah. Unbelievable. And I mean, I've had a French bulldog before. I was shocked and I know exactly which dog it was because I've seen the Frenchie, and it's a mutant Frenchie. It's massive. And there you go. Exactly. Hello, Clarice. Saturday night. Christmas Eve it happened. And then we tried to give it a couple of days, and he was just so uncomfortable that I said, we got to get him to the hospital or his vet today. So if his vet couldn't have taken him today, we were going to bring him to the hospital. And all along I was in touch with the dog sitter, basically saying, look, if we can't get him to his vet today, he's going to the animal hospital, and I don't care what the bill is. And the dog sitter was just like, don't worry about it, whatever it is. Just text it to me and I'll Venmo you the money. He's been his sitter for like 3.5 years. Ever since I came to Palm Springs, this guy has been watching him. But there's been a few incidents, like I've gotten a couple of phone calls saying, oh, your dog is missing. He dug a hole under the fence. And then I got a call from the cops one time saying, oh, is Ducky your dog? And I'm like, Ducky? You mean Dookie? Yeah, D-U-K-Y. I'm like, yeah. They go, oh, we just found your dog. Where should we bring him? Yeah. My dog's a real escape artist. Yes. If there's a way out, he will find it. He is Houdini. Yeah, D-U-K-Y. Not D-O-O-K-I-E. No, he's named when he was found. No, that's actually good though. When he was found in Brooklyn, he had this ratty old blue collar on him when we found him. And it had in black Sharpie, the only thing written on the collar was D-U-K-Y. And I'm like, I don't know if that's your name, but it is now. Yeah. Yeah, it's not Dookie. It's not the Green Day. I get that a lot, though. Oh, it's after Green. No, it's D-U-K-Y, not D-O-O-K-I-E. Ugh, what a drab game. The first couple of segments and the stuff I was saying about the Broncos situation could definitely go with it. What I'm going to talk about now can definitely, not now, but in the first long segment can go in for sure. I should have taken this whole week off. Man, that felt like one of the shortest Monday Night Football games this year. Like, just nobody wanted to be there. They're like, let's just get this over with. I mean, that game was over in 3 hours flat. That really, am I wrong, Brian? Was that the fastest Monday Night Football game this year? It had to be. But it certainly felt short. Like, usually we're still on the air in the second hour with the game on. It felt like this game got over real quick. Yeah, it was. It was that. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this game felt really short. Good to have you with us. The phone number 1-800-224-2004. Hello to our friends. If you're just tuning in on 97.1 The Freak in Dallas, good to have you with us tonight. You've already missed an hour of the show. Where you been? No Mavericks game tonight. Mavericks are off. Boy, the Nets just keep winning. And tonight they beat Cleveland. You know, that's not the Sisters of the Poor. That's a pretty good team. So Brooklyn wins again tonight. 9th in a row. This thing might be for real. 125-117 was the final in the land tonight. Clippers put up 142 in an overtime win over Detroit tonight. 142-131. Feels like the old days of Doug Moe and the Denver Nuggets. Teams putting up 130, 140 points. Houston put up 133 tonight in Chicago against the Bulls. 133, 118. Every time I turn around, Houston wins. Yet I must have turned around for like every win because they're only 10-23 this year. I guess so. It's crazy. They've beaten some good teams. Yes. No, sure. Yeah, it is a young team. That is true. It was Kevin Porter Jr. night, 36 in the win for the Rockets. 7 rebounds, 9 assists. But you have to start taking numbers in stride in the NBA when you see like these gaudy point totals because everybody's scoring now. Pascal Siakam had a 50-burger. We're back to talk Tua next. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Oh, come, let us adore him. This game was so bad. Ugh. I went bowling today, did some practice. For a few frames, I thought my left knee was done and I wasn't going to be able to bowl. But once the pain subsided, I did all right. Just it sucks when you can't bowl all the time. It's tough. It's like golf. If you can't do it all the time, it's hard to be your best. Yeah. It takes me forever to get loose because my body is just falling apart. I'm finally going to see a doctor next week. I desperately need. No. This will be. This will just be the general doctor first, and then I'll get referrals to. Because I gotta see an orthopedic surgeon. Because one or both of my knees is going to need surgery. Probably just my left, but I got to find out what kind of damage is in there. Plus, my right rotator cuff is just gone. So this is gonna be a rough year physically. It's gonna be a really rough year. Yeah, and I gotta lose weight. I mean, I'm so heavy right now. It's the heaviest I've ever been. Why? What's wrong with your foot? Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, gout you can do something about. I've had gout for years. No, it sucks. It means you're making bad choices. That's what it means. Come on. All right, good to have you with us. Second hour of the show. Hope your Christmas was a good one. Did you bring back anything for Boxing Day? That's our question. 1-800-224-2004. Did you get anything for Christmas that you decided to return? That's what I want to know. I want you to tell the entire world on this nationally syndicated radio product. I want them to, look, you're just going first names. If you want to use like one of those voice disguises where you're like, I had to give away, I had to return the ugly sweater I got from my Aunt Gina. We can disguise your voice. Yes. I almost said it too. So yeah, that's what you got to do. That's what's going on. So, I'd be curious to hear if anybody returned anything. Or you regift, or maybe you regift stuff. Maybe you do the regifting thing. I don't think I've ever regifted anything. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever regifted. No, because I actually like candles. It's so funny you should mention that. Because last night I love candles. I was just having this conversation with my SO today where I said, it's too late. I'm too lazy to say significant other all the time, so I'm just gonna say my SO. Yeah. So I was having my conversation with my SO today, and I said to him, I actually love candles. There was a time there used to be a candle store. I don't know how many people know this place. It's such a rich white woman store, but there used to be this store called Illuminations, and it used to just have all things candles. Like crazy candle furniture, crazy candle everything. And I used to love this place. I don't even know if they still exist anymore, but I used to go to Illuminations and just walk through the place and be like, ooh, if I had stupid money, I would buy that and that and that. I always loved it. So we actually, I said to my SO last night, I was like, we should burn more candles in the condo. And then the last night we were about to go to sleep and I saw this glow coming out of the living room and I was like, I think we left one of the candles lit. I was like, we're going to burn the house down tonight, aren't we? So I ran out, blew it out, went to bed. We talked just shortly after we launched this show, week 3, week 4 of the season, Tua Tagovailoa got hurt. And I was very passionate in the way I responded with regards to that story. It was very upsetting to me to see this kid, for the first undiagnosed concussion, which officially still has never been deemed a concussion. The first one that, they let him stay in the game, even though he could barely walk off the field under his own power. Then, the next week or whatever the next game was that he suffers another concussion where he basically gets knocked out. His fingers kind of freeze up and it just looked awful. And then we learned today that Tua Tagovailoa, who's 24 years old, has suffered another concussion. And this one that he has suffered, he's self-diagnosed. It apparently occurred yesterday in the Dolphins' loss to the Packers. It occurred. But then, or was it yesterday or the day? Yeah, it was yesterday. It was yesterday morning, Christmas morning they played. So apparently he suffered another concussion yesterday, reported symptoms today. They don't even know when he suffered the concussion yesterday because, they've gone back and looked through the plays and nobody really knows when it actually happened. Thankfully, he self-reported today instead of doing the, macho thing and saying, well, I'll get through it, and by the week, by the time we get to the end of the week, I'll be fine. He self-reported, like Kenny Pickett did, his symptoms, and now he's back in concussion protocol. But somebody's got to protect him from himself. And I'm not saying he's going to run up to Mike McDaniels and say, hey, I want to play this week, the moment he's eligible to play. But in studying just the basics of concussions, and you can go do the research yourself and look through any number of medical studies as it relates to concussions. So I'm not, some idiot speaking out of line who knows nothing about concussions. First of all, I've suffered a few of them myself, so I know a little bit about them. If you've suffered one, you're 1 to 2 times more likely to have a second. If you've suffered 2, you're 2 to 4 times more likely to have another concussion. If you've suffered 3, you're now 3 to 6 times, and you get the picture. Now, we're only talking about the concussions that Tua has suffered this year. We're not talking about high school brain trauma. We're not talking about Alabama brain trauma. We're talking about brain trauma just suffered this year. Not even to mention his first couple of years in the NFL. We're just talking about now. You can't keep running him out there like this. There has to be somebody that's taking this kid's future. Whether it's his agent, Lee Steinberg, who's a terrific human being, whether it's somebody in ownership, whether it's the NFL, whether it's Roger Goodell, somebody has to stand up and put their hand up and say, okay, this has to stop. Okay? Because clearly there is something wrong with this kid's brain. That he had a concussion yesterday and nobody even knows when he suffered it, and at least he's reporting on it today. But you cannot let him keep going out there and having this happen. He's 24 years old. You can't run the risk of ruining the rest of his life, which already might be in danger from the cumulative effect of brain trauma that he has suffered through just the first 24 years of his life. And I get the fact that, the NFL is $1 billion sport and these franchises are worth a lot and players make millions. And I am the first one to say they know the score going in now. And if they wind up walking shells of the people they once were, it's as much on them as it is anybody, because they now know, the concussion movie that Will Smith was in, which outlined it very well. The lawsuits that have been fired by, retired NFL players, the Junior Seaus of the world, who drive a Jeep off of a mountain, whatever it may be. You know the score by now if you're an NFL player. But with all of that being said, there's got to be a grown-up in the room at this point. And I know I sound like a broken record from what I said after the concussion that knocked him out in week 3 or week 4 or whatever it was, which feels like forever ago now in NFL terms. But somebody's got to stand up and be the adult in the room and protect this kid. And I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know if it's the Players Association. I don't know who it's going to be. And I don't know if there's necessarily anybody that's even to blame for what transpired with him suffering a concussion and basically playing. That means he must have played the game yesterday, at least some portion of it, being concussed. Which means who knows if he had taken one more hit in the wrong way and hit his head on the turf. Who knows what we would have seen yesterday morning on Christmas morning in front of a national audience, the only game on. Could you imagine? Could you imagine what that would have looked like on Christmas morning? I mean, it's horrific to think about. And I don't know who the person in the room is that's going to stand up and be the one to say, all right, he's got to sit the rest of the season. I get that you don't think you could probably win a Super Bowl in Miami with Teddy Bridgewater, but it can't be about that. It has to be about Tua Tagovailoa, the person, not Tua Tagovailoa, the player. And I don't know who that is, but hopefully somebody is having that conversation right now, because it's scary when you start talking about this latest one, which nobody even knows how or when it happened. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You want to tweet at the show, go ahead and do it. Hit me up at the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page, if you want to hit me up on the show. Head coach Mike McDaniel said Tagovailoa displayed and admitted to having concussion symptoms when he spoke with team doctors Monday and was immediately placed into protocol, and they're not sure where he suffered it. I mean, and again, we're now talking probably now about a guy who's had 3 concussions in one season. There is no way in good conscience you can let him back out on the field. And Mike McDaniel could say all the right things he wants, I want guys to be done right by and all of those things. But they've got to show it. Like, they're not even sure they haven't even announced who's going to be the starter this week. They should have been able to come out today and say, you know what, he's in concussion protocol for the second time this year, and it's probably the 3rd concussion he suffered. He's not starting this week. But nobody's even saying that yet. And he took another hard hit. He's taken a number of hard hits this year. And it's just, again, now you got guys that are going to put their careers ahead of their own health. Somebody's got to be the grown up in the room. Like I said, I'm curious to see who it winds up being. And Tua's played, pretty well in the front half of this season. He played well last week in a loss. He might have regressed a bit in the loss to the Packers, but I don't even care about. I had planned a whole segment talking about Tua the player tonight before I saw the news of him having been placed in concussion protocol again. I don't even have the stomach to talk about him as the player, because none of that really matters. If the guy is sipping peas through a straw in 15 years at the ripe old age of 40 and can't remember, where he placed his car keys, or he starts placing them in the refrigerator instead of on the key rack. You just can't. This can't be the way that this league continues to go. Again, I know the average fan doesn't care, and you're probably tuning me out, because these guys are just players. They're commodities. They're fantasy players. They're guys that you're betting on prop bets. They're fans of your favorite team. They're a jersey. They're an autograph. They're a Sunday distraction from whatever's going on in your life. I get it. But you got to talk about him as the player as well. And what's going on with him right now, it's bad. It's just really bad. The best I can do. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Again, you can hit me up on Twitter at any point during the show. At the back page, again, on Twitter. At the back page. There is one NBA game going on right now. We haven't done a live bet tonight on the show, and I don't know if we're going to, because the only game left going on right now is the Hornets and the Blazers in Portland. 67-61 Hornets on top in that game. We'll update you on that in our live betting segment. Maybe some futures betting we'll get into as well. Stick around. More to do on the Cash In. I'm Jason Page. This is SportsMap Radio. Oh, that Derwin James hit tonight was just, ugh. And Derwin James walking off the field all upset, like, oh my God, I can't believe they tossed me out of the game. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's unchanged. It was a mistake in the release, which frankly they should have corrected and they didn't. It's on All Access. "28 minutes past the hour. The caching continues. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. We'll get to the post-game sound on the Chargers and the Colts in the next hour. I'll let all that roll in, and then we'll get some sound from the podium from Jeff Saturday. And, yeah, Brandon Staley, look, I mean, say what you want about the guy. He's got the Chargers at 9-6 and looking like a playoff team now. Matter of fact, did they clinch tonight with the win? They clinch a playoff spot? Yeah, I thought they did. Yeah, so I mean, and you know what? Let me tell you what's good for football. Justin Herbert in the postseason. That's good for football. Now you've got Justin Herbert in the postseason. You're gonna have Joe Burrow in the postseason. You're gonna have Josh Allen in the postseason. Tua you might have, but that obviously remains to be seen. We've obviously talked about the perils of him continuing to play. But you've got some great young future stars of the game that are going to be playing in this postseason. That to me, sign me up all day for that. And who knows, maybe you'll even have Daniel Jones in there. that Giants game. No, maybe Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz. What was once old is new again. Carson Wentz, baby. Rising like the phoenix out of the ashes. Like Lazarus from the dead, man. It was great stuff. Seeing Carson Wentz get in there and yeah, no. Leading him to a loss. So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what the yeah, I'll get. Listen, I don't think the Giants would be, terrible to watch. Like I said to Nick Ferguson. Like I said, well, I'm a Giants fan, so yeah, I'd be excited for it. But you can't put fandom aside because that's why it's fandom. I mean, if it was that easy, fans would be rational, and they're not rational. Fair enough, Brian. But I think you're. It's such a matter of the luck of the draw. Like, if you're the Giants, like I said, if the playoffs start today, they get the Niners in the wild card round, which would really be an unfortunate twist of fate because if they're one game worse, they're in a situation where they're playing the Vikings, and they can beat the Vikings in a playoff game. Anybody who watched that game on Sunday knows that the Giants are good enough, or Saturday, knows the Giants are good enough to beat the Vikings. I mean, they basically played them to a draw on the road. Yes. So they had every opportunity to win that game. And Daniel Jones showed out on a big stage, in a big spot where the Giants needed him to. And again, they're trying to make this decision about what to do long-term with Daniel Jones. And I do not envy the Giants having to make that decision. My guess is they're going to stick with him beyond this year, because I don't know where you're going based on what spot they're going to be in the draft order. I don't know who you think you're getting that's going to be somebody you can plug in on a team that, just potentially made the playoffs. All the Giants have to do is win one of their last two games, and they're a playoff team. Look, the Giants have the Colts at home, so the Giants are home for the Colts next week on New Year's Day. And you think, geez, thanks, Mr. Wizard. And then they're at the Eagles in a game that will probably be a mean nothing game for the Eagles. The Eagles will probably have everything. I think they already do. They might have everything wrapped up at that point. Yeah, I guess theoretically. Well, next week, yes, but the final week of the season, they may not have to. So the Giants could potentially wind up still being a 10-win team. And man, like I said, I feel for them because they could wind up getting the Niners. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think the Niners are going to the Super Bowl. I'll say it right now. I think Dallas is capable, but I think the Niners are going. And I know everybody's going to say, what about Philadelphia, Jay? I think Philadelphia is a really good team. I need to see it from Jalen Hurts in the postseason before I believe it. And I know people could say the same thing about Dak. Sorry, Cowboy fans. I know you don't want to hear this regurgitated on your radio tonight. I know a lot of people could say the same thing about Dak, who's got one postseason win to his credit in his career and who still continues to make throws that has, Cowboy fans cringing at times. But I keep seeing a guy that when it matters most is able to drive this team down the field in spots where you need him to. And look, I get the fact that, defensively this team in the second half of the year has not been what they were in the first half. A lot of that is attributable to injuries. And I think this team travels well. I think their game travels well on the road. I don't know how the bracket sets up for it, but I keep saying, I look into my crystal ball, I keep seeing Cowboys-Niners in the NFC title game. Keep saying it. I tell you right now, nobody wants to see the Buccaneers in the postseason. And I'm not saying that from a, God, they're going to be awful to watch standpoint. As long as Tom Brady has breath in his lungs, yes, I think people are absolutely, you don't want to see them. You do not want to be on the other end of the field from the Buccaneers. Because I've seen now, 2 out of the last 3 weeks, Tom Brady basically drive the Buccaneers down the field in a spot where he's played like garbage all game, and he's been able to drive them down the field and win a football game. And, say what you want. I heard, this is going to be good. I heard Pat McAfee today banging on Tom Brady, which just made me laugh because we need a fraud alert. I got how there's like fraud alerts that come out, like the FCC or if there's like these fraud things out there, like be careful, scam alerts. I wish I had a scam alert sound effect because Pat McAfee is the biggest fraud in the world. He sat there and went on today for about 3 minutes talking about how Tom Brady, he can't do it anymore. I watched him yesterday. He doesn't look good. I'll guarantee you, at no point during this entire season did Pat McAfee utter those words about Aaron Rodgers when he was playing like hot garbage. I'll guarantee it. Not a word. But see, he could say it about Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady doesn't need to come on his show. Because Tom Brady won't come on his show. Because Tom Brady is his own media brand, even while he's still playing. So Tom Brady, he won't give the benefit of the doubt to Tom Brady, but he's giving it to his buddy Aaron Rodgers. He's such a fraud. You people have got to know this. He's such a fraud. Oh, my God. Watching it again today just completely reinforced it. All right, a total Week 16 breakdown is coming up on the Cash-In next, SportsMap Radio. Oh, I watched him today talking about, just going off on, he can't make these throws anymore. He looks 45, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting there going, the only reason you're saying that is because he'll never come on. You're completely disingenuous. You're totally a fake. No, of course he wouldn't. No, he'd provide verbal fellatio to Aaron. That's what he does. It's such a joke. Wow, 103 years ago today, the Red Sox traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees.
Your team, your town, your turf.
Every decision you make should be what's best for them, and if they can be your friend in the future, then that's a win. Well, right now, Mike McDaniel started this off being a friend, right? Being someone that empowered to empower this team. Can he now be the parent to get that respect, to get a little bit of fear, to demand accountability?
In pro basketball history. Still. Gloria?
Who is Babe Ruth?
No one.
Who is Babe Ruth?
Yeah?
Who is Babe Ruth? Who is Babe Ruth? Who is Babe Ruth?
Thank you. I doubt anybody's going to be able to get this trivia question, at least on the radio side. If you're watching the show during the video breaks that we have, you would have known what's coming. But 103 years ago today, one of the most historic trades in the history of sports. 103 years ago today, the Boston Red Sox traded this player to the New York Yankees. Answer?
Who is Babe Ruth?
Yep, that's it. Thank you, Gloria. Who is Babe Ruth? Trade that went down in infamy. The curse of the Bambino. Which, of course, there is no such thing as curses. There's just poorly run organizations. And Bill Buckner and all these different things. There is no curse of the Billy Goat. There is no curse when somebody says, somebody's got a no-hitter through 6 innings, and then the next guy gets a base hit. There's no such thing. It does not exist. It's not real. It's not rational. You agree? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Who is Babe Ruth?
1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You want to tweet at the show, go ahead and do it at the back page. By the way, there are few movies better than White Men Can't Jump. I mean, let's just call it what it is right now. White Men Can't Jump, one of the all-time greats.
Who is Babe Ruth?
It's great. Poor Gloria. She knew every other question, though, on Jeopardy, so it was her destiny to triumph, to magnificently triumph on that show. So she did. What are you going to do? I've always wanted to go on Jeopardy. It was either Jeopardy or The Price is Right would be one of the two. I know. It's crazy how many people I know that have been on Wheel of Fortune. I think I know 2 or 3 people. How did you go to a TV taping? Did you go to L.A.? Oh, you did. Okay, yeah. Oh, big old family trip. Some people go to Disney World. Some go see Wheel of Fortune. Wow.
Who is Babe Ruth?
Yeah, exactly. It's all right. My mom watches it every night.
Who is Babe Ruth?
I agree. So I got to get into Week 16. The rest of the Week 16 mishmash that I want to go through, and I saved it specifically for this segment because it's the long segment on the show, and obviously there was so much to talk about. From the weekend it is amazing. Carolina, how is Steve Wilkes not the head coach of that team yet? I want to know. I get that there's other guys out there. Let me tell you, if Steve Wilkes is not the head coach of the Carolina Panthers next year, the Rooney Rule's a joke. They need to just take it and shove it down the toilet because it's absolutely meaningless. It's toothless. It has no bite whatsoever. Because Steve Wilkes deserves that job. He's earned that position. By having Carolina in a position with 2 weeks left to potentially make the postseason. I don't care what division they're in. I don't care if they're playing CIAC, which is in Connecticut for those that wonder, which is high school. I don't care. What he's done with that team, what he took over, and where it is now, and he's winning with Sam Darnold at quarterback. They had 320 yards rushing against Detroit. And that's a Lions defense that had been much improved over the last month. I mean, Detroit were the darlings. I mean, everybody thought Detroit was the team making a run at, a postseason spot. But here's Detroit controlling their own destiny. Here's this is the final couple of weeks of this season are going to be insane. When you look at Detroit controlling its own destiny. Or no, I think they would need a Washington loss probably, right? Yeah, they would probably. So Detroit has to win out and get a Washington loss. That happens, Detroit gets in. But Detroit, they've got the Bears this week, which is a winnable game at Ford Field. And then they've got the Packers in the final week. And it sounds like now it's all going to come down to the final 2 weeks for the Packers as well. And look, I will be the first one to say when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I thought the Packers should have put Aaron Rodgers on the bench after this team lost against the Bills. I thought it was time to, let Jordan Love get some starts and some reps and start to figure out what you had for the future. Not the Bills. There was the loss against, who did they lose against when I said they should They should sit them. Actually, I could find it because they've won 3 in a row now. It's the loss against the Eagles. After the loss against the Eagles, and frankly, I think I might have even said after the loss against the Titans, which I think was a Thursday night game, if I'm not mistaken. But they've rattled off 3 wins in a row, 2 of the 3 on the road. And, one of them against a Dolphins team that certainly is playoff capable. But here's the problem. The Vikings are going to take great delight at the possibility of eliminating the Packers from postseason contention. So there is not going to be any mailing it in for the Vikings, not to mention the fact they don't want the possibility of having to play Green Bay in the postseason. So if there's a game where, maybe the Vikings can put it together for 4 quarters, which hasn't happened all year, this would be that game. The Vikings on the road at Lambeau. And, the Vikings are an indoor team now. And, they've always been an indoor team. But, this is an indoor team. And you got to wonder if weather's going to play a factor this week for the Vikings on the road at Lambeau against the Packers. But, the Packers, look, assuming you think Washington's going to lose one of their last 2 games of the season, which is certainly plausible if you've watched the way this team has played over the last 2 weeks, the loss against the Giants last week, the loss against the 49ers this week. If you look at the Commanders right now, home for the Browns this week, and then the Cowboys in a game that might mean something for the Cowboys. And again, are the Cowboys going to play it straight in that final game if it doesn't mean anything? Or is Mike McCarthy going to say, hey, man, I'm not getting any more people hurt. I'm not getting any more players hurt in that final game of the season, which potentially allows for a situation where the Commanders win in week 18 of the season to get themselves into the postseason? Because you'd think Washington would be a favorite this week against the Browns. I don't have the current NFL lines in front of me, which I can pull up here in just a matter of seconds. Let's see, what do we got here? Right now, the Commanders are 2.5-point underdog. 2.5-point favorite against the Browns. So that's what you're talking about this week. Tampa Bay is a 3-point favorite against Carolina. Boy, how about that? Think about this for a second. Vegas right now has the Panthers as a 3-point underdog on the road in Tampa Bay, which basically means on a neutral field, they think this is a pick'em game. That is remarkable respect. In a year where we've seen some lines that kind of make you turn your head sideways and go, hey, boy, they're not giving a lot of respect to certain teams. That's a lot of respect for Carolina. +3 on the road against the Buccaneers. They think Carolina can win that game. And look, if you've watched the Buccaneers kind of scuffle through the first 15 games of this season, I could see why you'd think that. There's a lot. The last 2 weeks have so many interesting games. Giants probably wrap up a postseason spot this week at home against the Colts. And then it's just going to be a question of who gets that last spot. Is it Detroit? Is it Washington? Is it Green Bay? And wouldn't it be something? Think about this. For all that's happened this year, for all that's taken place for both the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, the thumb injury, the struggles, not being on the same page as his teammates, all of that. And for Tom Brady, who's literally gone through a divorce with his supermodel wife, now ex-wife, and had it play out all over the back pages of websites and TV entertainment sites and newspapers, and had to go through this publicly all year at age 45 in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers, just scuffling through the season. there is a possibility both those guys are in the postseason. So for all the conversation about the Josh Allens of the world and the Joe Burrows and the Justin Herberts and all these young quarterbacks that are going to get to continue to prove their mettle, obviously Patrick Mahomes, here's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers putting up one last fight saying, hey, young bucks, don't forget about us. Basically controlling their own destiny unless you believe that Washington's going to win out, and a team that's lost their last two in the road to the Giants and 49ers. Would you put money right now on Washington winning out? I wouldn't. The Browns will play them really tough. That'll be a pick'em game, a toss-up game. And then, like I said, for the Cowboys, it all boils down to what does that game mean to them? What does it mean for the Cowboys? If they get a win over the Titans this week, how about the fact that Jacksonville's in the playoffs right now? How about the fact that Jacksonville leads the AFC South right now and controls their own destiny? It's just, I'm telling you, these last 2 weeks are going to deliver so much drama. Sign me up, man. Sign me up. I can't get enough of it. I cannot get enough of this right now. It's been, again, for as chaotic and weird as this NFL season has been, it has been so much fun to dig into. Weird year, but man, you're still set up for all sorts of drama. Seattle is still in the mix right now at 7-8, despite the fact that they've lost 3 in a row. Boy, what happens if... Talk about a scenario that nobody probably thought was possible. What if Miami loses out? What if the Dolphins lose out here? At the Patriots this week, that's losable. And then home for the Jets in the final week of the season. I mean, they could potentially lose out and miss out on the postseason. Wow. So many scenarios. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can hit me up on Twitter as well, at the back page. Cowboys got themselves a good win on Sunday. Still feeling good about Dallas. I'll keep saying it. Still feeling good about the Cowboys and the 49ers as far as my pick for an NFC title game if the brackets match up that way. Hey, Gardner Minshew kept Philadelphia in that game, though. 40-34, Dallas got the win. Can't wait for these final 2 weeks. Just get me to the weekend. Lots more to do. We'll come back and wrap up this hour of the Cash-In next. They have had a rough few years. They really have. Couple of winning records, you don't get in. It's just awful. And it's so tough because if Tua doesn't get hurt, you have to think you're in. So how do you analyze the season in that regard? You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, yesterday he was awful. Tell you what's even crazier. Jacksonville can get in just as a wild card team. Yeah, it really does. I don't think Jacksonville would. Right. Jags and First Name Sports. Yeah, I know. I get it. Yeah, well, paying for the time. I mean, the way it breaks down right now as far as the playoffs, for everybody who's interested in this sort of thing, the way it breaks down is simply this. Playoffs start today. Jacksonville and the Dolphins would be in as wild card teams. Actually, Jacksonville would be in as a division winner. Dolphins would be in as a wild card team. Patriots and Jets still have a shot to get in. They need some help. NFC, Seahawks and Lions, along with the Packers, need some help. So there's a lot of scenarios out there that still get a lot of teams very much in the mix. The Raiders are still not mathematically eliminated, even at 6-9. Steelers. I mean, I think this is one of Mike Tomlin's finest coaching seasons. I talked about this last week on the show with might have been Russell Baxter, who joined us from ProFootballGuru.com. I mean, the Steelers are 7-8 with Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph as their quarterbacks. I mean, that is remarkable what he's been able to do to cobble up enough wins that they're playing meaningful football in the last 2 weeks of the season. I'll say it again. Carolina, Steve Wilkes should be the head coach. How he has not been named head coach yet is a disgrace to me. I know everybody wants to be in on the Sean Payton sweepstakes, but he can only go to one team. And quite honestly, if I'm Steve Wilkes and this team hasn't offered me a contract, and I know it's easy for me to say, I'm the white privilege guy. I'm not a minority head coaching candidate in the league. So it's easy for me to sit here and say that he should tell Carolina to shove it if they haven't given him a deal by now. Really? He should tell Carolina to shove it. You go find somebody else who could do what he's done this year with that organization after they got rid of their most valuable asset and then traded the guy that they went to get to be their starting quarterback. I'd tell him to shove it. He's not going to, but he should. We'll come back with another hour of the cash-in on SportsMap Radio. La, 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 la.
Who is Babe Ruth?
No, I'm sorry. That is wrong. Richard or Leonard?
Babe Ruth?
Richard. She's not.
Who is Babe Ruth? Who is Babe Ruth?
No, I'm sorry. That is wrong. Richard or Leonard?
Babe Ruth?
Richard.
She's not very good at sports, man.
You are correct. You get to pick again.
Q.
The champion always starts things off. Where would you like to begin?
Sports plays for 100.
The first clue of the game is this. The all-time leading rebounder in pro basketball history.
Still.
Gloria?
Who is Babe Ruth?
No, I'm sorry. That is wrong. Richard or...
Who is Babe Ruth?
Let's see. Post game. I need. Thanks for being with us. Final hour of a Monday show / Tuesday, depending on where you are. Yeah. I got a little holiday hangover thing going on. And I don't mean like alcohol. No, I'm okay. It's a rough day. As I shared about the dog at the vet, and it's 2 days of running around, parties, and then Christmas dinner at our best friend's place, and you got to be on. You know, it's like when I go places, it's like the red light is on. You know, and you got to perform a bit. And it's tiring. We went to a Christmas party at my SO's colleague's house, and everybody wants to meet me, and people walk up to, oh, I hear you're a sports radio host, and they want to talk to you about sports, and you're like, dude, it's Christmas Eve. I don't want to talk about sports tonight. Like, it's like, and I love people, and I'm nice, and I'll talk about it to a degree, but I'm at a party. I don't ask you about your job while I'm at a party, other than to say, what do you do for a living? Oh, okay. And then you move on to the next thing. But as soon as people find out what I do for a living, then they want to talk to me about it. Right. And I got approached by a woman at the party who wanted to talk. So, and I couldn't help but engage her because she was so passionate about the all different baseball teams, but we were talking about the Dodgers and the Angels, and then she talking about the Mets and the Yankees and the off season and what's going on in football, because she's into football. It was just, man, you know what it's like if you go to parties and you tell people what you do. They want to talk to you about it, because we work in a profession that's kind of fun to sit there and hobnob about. All right. Post-game press conference sound. Colts, Chargers. It's coming up on the other side. What did Jeff Saturday have to say after the latest loss for his team? We'll come back and get to it next. Oh, shoot. I didn't know that this button did anything. I was literally playing with... Oh my God, I was playing with this button that does this. It goes up and then goes down. I had no idea. Wow. Oh my God, that's so funny. I had no idea that button did anything. Wow. I was just fidgeting and I was playing with it. Wow, I'm really stupid. Thanks. Nope, just human error on this end. Let's see what's Jeff Saturday saying here.
Looked at, pretty simple. Can't turn it over. Got to convert on third downs offensively, get them off the field. And, can't leave the deep guys. I don't think either of them return. So,
yeah, here's the problem. There's only one Sean Payton. I don't know. I don't know what some of these teams are going to do at head coach. I really don't. I wonder if Jason Garrett gets a head coaching job somewhere next year. If he was going to get it, he'd probably get it. He probably would have taken it by now. Yeah. David Shaw should have gone to the NFL when he had the chance. When he was the hot commodity there. Yep. That's why, man. A lot of people banged on Randy Edsall when he left UConn for Maryland, and it was a disaster. His career was a disaster from there. But he always told me privately, because I was friends with him. He said, I got one big move left. And he goes, if I don't take it now, then all right, I'm just staying at UConn for the rest of my career. So you got to take that shot when it's there. Good to have you along for the ride. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. You can watch us right now over on Twitch. Twitch. What did I do? Sorry. My volume? How's that? Is that better? Sorry. I was playing with buttons in the last segment. So during the break, Brian tells me, also, we couldn't hear you. I was playing with a button on my board here, and I always was under the impression this button did nothing. And apparently in the last segment, it was very much doing something. I was getting fidgety during the segment. What could I say? All right, here's what I can promise you, and there won't be any technical hiccups on my end here. Jeff Saturday, after another loss for the Indianapolis Colts, which essentially, look, team's lost 5 in a row. After winning his first game coaching the team against the Raiders, it's all been downhill from there. And, some close losses, some bad decisions, questionable decisions, whatever you want to say. Whether or not he's the head coach there next year, he certainly hasn't done anything to warrant getting the head coaching job next year. He met with the media after the Chargers clinched a playoff berth in the AFC with the win tonight. And after talking about some injuries, he went into great detail about tonight's game.
Yeah, I don't think either of them returned, so getting them looked at. Pretty simple. Can't turn it over. Got to convert on third downs offensively, get them off the field. Can't leave the defense on the field when they got to get off on third down. So didn't do enough to get it done, and unfortunately that's the way it turns out.
Jeff, do you guys have any answers on offense?
You keep doing what you're doing. We started out, thought we had some shots early. Obviously, the turnovers hurt you, and it kind of dissuades you from continuing to challenge it. And then as they played back, holding the ball, not seeing it, then you're getting behind the chains. We ran the ball well, but when when it's 2nd and 14, it's hard to stay in those things. So just kind of the flow of the game. We just, we say it every week, but self-inflicted wounds. You get behind the chains, it's hard to catch back up. And I thought we ran it effectively, but you couldn't stick with it because, again, we were hurting ourselves in different positions or in different plays.
Did you consider making a switch from Nick to Sam?
No. It was. Look, from the way we were practiced and the way Nick had been moving the football, you still had a chance. We got down there on the 4th down, 4th and short inside the red zone. You got to convert there, looking for a touchdown because we hadn't moved it. You're trying to get some kind of spark, and no, there's just there's going to somebody else wasn't the answer right there.
Is that the play moving forward to just keep it with Nick?
Yeah. I don't have any reservations about that right now.
So if you mentioned you're going to have a rotation of running backs, like Zach Moss got probably 90% of the snaps.
He was toting it. Like I said, it's competition, right? So he was out there. He was running that thing hard in between the tackles, breaking tackles. Did a really good job. So, Scotty does a great job of rotating them. But if he feels like one guy is rolling, he's gonna keep them in. So I don't get too involved in how he's gonna separate them. But I know every time I looked up, Zach was breaking tackles and moving the pile. So that's kind of how that went.
Was that Scotty's decision to
Yeah, he does the rotations on guys. Yeah, so he picks and chooses when to make those rotations, and think he does a good job with it. But I thought Zach did a really good job running hard and extending plays.
Jeff, you say you're going to stay with Nick just the way you moved the ball on the field. You had 170 yards of
No. I just said I didn't think a change was going to help us move the ball any more effectively. Not just because of how he played, but I said the way he practiced and, just trying to find rhythm with the offense. I don't think making another change at this moment is going to do much to spark it.
I feel like I'm going to sound like Samuel or Homo, and I'm not. I have no idea what he can do, but we all have seen what everybody else can do, and they can't do much. Why not?
Well, Sam's had his shot as well. I wasn't here when that happened, but as we've looked through there, we're trying to find a spark. As Nick was practicing, we felt like he gave us the best opportunity. Unfortunately, it wasn't his night tonight.
Jeff, you got 13 days left with these guys. What motivates this group these last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I told him, man, just the product. Listen, effort. These guys lay it out there. I can't tell you. I told them in there how grateful I am. The defense battling, that's tough. It's tough sledding, man. Nothing to play for. Down, offense isn't moving the ball. Them guys they're still laying hat, playing hard. I take a lot of pride in that, and I tell them, man, I'm so grateful and appreciative of how hard they do try to play. And again, when all things are stacked against you, it shows you a lot about yourself. I think those guys, they are proving to themselves what they are as professional football players, and that's true pros. And I'm grateful for what they're doing.
All right, so there's Jeff Saturday. Chatting with the media. Jim Irsay is on the record saying that he's strongly considering keeping interim head coach Jeff Saturday as this team's head coach. And I don't know. And the Rooney Rule, this is the workaround for the Rooney Rule. Is make somebody an interim head coach, and then they've got the inside track. And you can ultimately you can make them the head coach. But Jeff Saturday hasn't done anything to earn this job. Not anything. And before you say, well, the team isn't very good and the talent and all that, again, I can present to you a perfect case study. And that's Carolina, who I think had one win when Steve Wilkes took over. And now they're, 2 wins away from winning the NFC South. It's bonkers. And I get that, look, there's only so much the league can do in terms of mandating opportunities being given to minority head coaches. And I'm not even necessarily saying, by the way, that, the right minority coaches out there for the Colts to take over this team. But it can't be Jeff Saturday. There is not a single thing he's done to warrant getting this job. Not a single thing he's done as interim head coach has warranted him getting the opportunity to be the head coach of this team in 2023. And he can talk and give all the platitudes he wants, and guys are playing hard, and we're playing for pride and all of that. And it does not add up. There isn't. I would like to know from Jim Irsay what he has seen from Jeff Saturday that's made this team any better than it was under Frank Reich. And Chris Ballard is apparently going to remain as the general manager as well. He's got the vote of confidence. Even after going out and getting Matt Ryan to be the quarterback of this team, and we've seen how that's turned out. And again, look, sometimes organizations just fall into it, right? Sometimes you just fall into, to Peyton Manning. And sometimes you just fall into Andrew Luck, who, while he didn't win a Super Bowl, was obviously very talented. And then, you're able to get Phillip Rivers for a year, and he comes in and, a win away from advancing in the postseason. All of these different things. Sometimes teams just get lucky and are successful in spite of themselves. And sometimes you're the Jets who just, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to stink. And you're going to find a way to fall apart. Denver. Wow, you fall into with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in John Elway. You're able to get Peyton Manning. It's amazing what, the disinfectant that one player can be to basically override the bad decisions and poor management and poor ownership of some organizations. I'm not necessarily saying Pat Bowlen was a bad owner. The late Pat Bowlen was a bad owner or anything like that. But if you look around at some organizations, you just step in it sometimes. And you get that right quarterback at the right time. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got Brad Johnson, and they were able to win a Super Bowl. Right place, right time. This is stuff that it goes on throughout the history of sports, but more so in the NFL than in any other league. Can your fortunes literally be turned around or turned upside down by one player, and that's a quarterback? Go look around the league. Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Matt Stafford winning one in Los Angeles with the Rams. And I can go on and on. That doesn't happen in any other sport. There needs to be a confluence of events. There has to be a number of players and strategies and decisions made by an organization. Building a farm system if you're talking about baseball. Same with hockey and drafting well. The NBA, obviously, drafting well and combination of that with free agency and being able to put a roster together. But only in the NFL. Only in the NFL can literally one guy be the difference between being an also-ran and winning a Super Bowl. The decision to Miami. Yeah, but let's also hold on. If not for Kyrie, they don't win that final. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Kyrie hit the shot in that NBA final. I don't disagree. No, I don't disagree. And look, there are obviously exceptions to the rule, and LeBron would certainly be one of them. And especially, because stars like LeBron don't generally wander around from team to team, Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland, then Los Angeles. That doesn't usually happen. So he's definitely the exception to the rule. It happens now more in the NBA than it ever has before. Same look at Kevin Durant, obviously. But no sport more than football. Does your existence rise and fall on one player? I mean, look at Denver. I mean, Denver is the preeminent example of this. Everybody was expecting big things from Denver. Go look at the preseason. I'll go look it up when we come back on the other side because I'm running a little long here. But look at the NFL preseason win predictions in the NFL in 2022. And what were they for the Broncos? It's remarkable what people were predicting before the season started. Denver was, let's see here. Preseason prediction. I'll find it when we come back on the other side. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You heard from Jeff Saturday. Maybe we'll get in some Charger sound on the other side. Stick around. Lots more to do. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Let's see. Vegas. Let's see. The hiccups. I only had one tonight. Let's see. There we go. Ten. Caesars Sportsbook had the Broncos at 10. But 10. Yeah. Good. Nah, that's good. That's good. And the Giants were 7, which I thought was optimistic. Commanders were 7.5. Wow, Texans is 4.5. But Falcons were 5. Jets were 5.5. I mean, all these numbers blew these out of the water. Falcons 5, Jets 5.5, Seahawks 6, Panthers 6.5, Jaguars 6.5, Lions 6, Bears 6.5, Giants 7, Steelers 7.5. Wow, the Saints were 8. Cardinals were 9. Chargers is still up in the air, 10. Packers were 11. The Buccaneers were 11.5. It's crazy. Yeah. Coming up in 12 minutes, our 2-for-1 tonight. Nick Ferguson, former Broncos safety, former NFL safety. He is the host of the Touchdown Denver podcast. Get some thoughts with him on the firing of Nathaniel Hackett and what comes next. And what do you do with Russell Wilson at this point? With $250 million going to him and a guy that doesn't look like, to me, he's capable of playing the position at the level needed for this team to win. I want to see what he thinks. That'll be coming up 12 minutes from now on the show. So I was talking about, the fates of a player rising and falling, fates of a team rising and falling on one player, and that's quarterback in the NFL. And I'm looking at the preseason prediction numbers. So this is what Caesars Sportsbook had literally as the season started. Unders and overs, win totals, and where they wound, and I'm looking at where they wound up. The Bills were 11.5, so they're looking pretty good on that right now. They're obviously 12-3, so they're looking really good. The Buccaneers were 11.5. They were second highest win total, 11.5. They're not even going to sniff it. They'd need the season to be 20 weeks to have a shot. The Packers were 11, not even sniffing it. The Chiefs, who are the chefs, they've gone over. They were set at 10.5 rather. They got 12. The Rams, talk about another one that went sideways. The Rams were at 10.5 rather. Not even going to sniff it, obviously, and injuries played a big part in it for them. They felt like they just never got healthy. The Cowboys, 10.5, over. 49ers, 10. And considering everything that's befallen that team, for them to be at 11 wins right now is just amazing. I mean, Kyle Shanahan should be Coach of the Year candidate for what he's done. I know Nick Sirianni and the Eagles is a great story, but Kyle Shanahan, wow. Broncos, we're talking about Russell Wilson. Broncos were projected to win 10. Vegas had the over-under at 10, which means they thought they'd be around that number because that's the number that drives action for people who don't understand sports betting. Vegas puts it at a number so that you have to sit there and go, oh, that's so close. I think they could be 9, or I think they could be 10, or I think they could be 11. They didn't think that Denver was going to be 4 with 2 games to play. The Bengals, 9.5, over. Arguably the hottest team in football. Chargers, 10. They're at 9-6 now with 2 to play. Colts, 9.5. Talk about another team. Again, go and look at the teams that didn't perform. Buccaneers, Packers, Rams, Broncos, Colts, all of those teams. It was all based on who their quarterback was. None of them even sniffed it. The Eagles, 9.5. Talk about a no-sweat bet. There's one for you. But a lot of people before the season started thought that number was low. Ravens, 9.5. It's going to be tricky. They should. Oh, they're 10-5. Never mind. They're fine. Sorry, my bad. So they're 10-5. So they're good. Browns, 9.5. How did anybody come up with the idea that the Browns with... And by the way, I like Jacoby Brissett. No, it's not. It was right before the season started. It was not pre-suspension. They actually thought that team was going to be a 9.5 win team. I know, it's crazy. Sometimes Vegas gets it wrong, though. Vikings were 9. Look at the Vikings. The Titans, 9.5. The Titans, 9.5. No, it's not going to happen. They'll fall a half game short at best. Dolphins, 8.5. Should get there. Should get one of these last 2 games, you'd think, but you never know. Patriots, 8.5. Again, there's right around the number. Vegas got right around it. Cardinals, 9. Again, fate's rising and falling on quarterbacks. Raiders, 8.5. Raiders, no, that's not going to happen. Saints, 8. Another team. There were people that thought the Saints could. I remember talking to people that said, oh, the Saints are my dark horse Super Bowl pick. Well, it went dark all right. Commanders, 7.5. They're right at the number. Steelers, 7.5, right at the number. The Giants at 7, they're over. Bears at 6.5. Chicago at 3-12. They're not even sniffing it. And by the way, Justin Fields is going to play the final 2 games. And I got to be I'm of 2 minds about this. Part of me says, why would you risk him getting hurt? Improve your draft position, go start Trevor Siemian. And then there's part of me that's like, well, he's shown signs that he could be your future quarterback. Maybe you need to figure it out. Okay, fine. The Lions at 6. Dan Campbell has obviously eclipsed that number at 7 and 8. The Panthers at 6.5. Carolina at 6 and 9 needs one more win. Seahawks, that's the other big surprise this year. And again, the opposite way on the quarterback thing, right? Because we talked about all those other teams that have underachieved who had huge names at quarterback, huge star power there. Everybody thought Seattle would go backwards with Geno Smith as the starter. And, the Seahawks moving on past, the post Russell Wilson era. And there's Seattle at 7 and 8. And in position to still have a shot at making the postseason. Seahawks, 6. The Jets, 5.5. They blew that number away. The Falcons at 5. Atlanta at 5 and 10. So they're right on the number with 2 to play. And then the Texans at 4.5. So that's everybody. But even some of the Super Bowl odds. The second best Super Bowl odds, Tampa Bay. The 4th best Super Bowl odds, the Green Bay Packers, along with the Rams. How'd that work out for you? Denver in the top, 8 for Super Bowl odds. It's crazy. It just goes to show you how difficult the science is of futures betting, particularly in a sport like the NFL. I think futures betting in baseball is far easier than it is in probably any other sport. Look at who was in the postseason this year in baseball. How many of those teams would you have not predicted to be in the postseason in baseball this year? Maybe Seattle. You might have said Seattle was a year early. Yeah, but Twins sorely underperformed, but that whole division's sort of a mishmash of 88 wins can win the division, 90 wins can get you the division. Usually, though, in baseball, if you ask me to pick who the teams making the playoffs are, I'm going to get all but probably one right. We're coming back with Nick Ferguson on the other side. The madness in Bronco land on the cash-in. Stay tuned. The show continues on this Monday, 20 minutes till the top of the hour. Get back to the calls and tweets and all that good stuff at 800-224-2004, 800-224. The show continues on this Monday, 20 minutes till the top of the hour. I've worked with Justin, I think, or Charles, I forget. Yeah, so Charles I've worked with. I have not worked with Justin. Oh, okay. Got it. All right. The show continues on this Monday, 20 minutes till the top of the hour. Get back to the calls and tweets and all that good stuff at 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. On Twitter at the back page. You can watch the show on Twitch right now, Jason Page 77. The podcast as well, the Cash In podcast, where you will definitely hear this conversation with my man, Nick Ferguson. Does a terrific job, former NFL safety, host of the Touchdown Denver podcast, and friend of the program, dare I say. All right, Nick, I was listening to Shannon Sharp earlier today, and I thought, I get the sense he's somebody that probably knows a thing or two about the Broncos organization, like you, somebody that played for the team and knows people inside the organization. So when I hear him go off this morning, about an hour and a half before Nathaniel Hackett gets fired, and not only say that Nathaniel Hackett has to be fired, which he would later be fired, but also this idea of, you know what, maybe Russell Wilson just isn't the quarterback for this team. I don't know how that happens with the amount of money he's owed, the dead cap space. We've talked about it ad nauseum here already in the first 34 minutes of the show. But is there a scenario that exists? And look, if you've got $4.65 billion to buy the Denver Broncos, you've got FU money. You've got money where you could basically say, you know what? I know it's $250 million, but if we can't win with Russell Wilson, we can't compound the mistake of paying $250 million for Russell Wilson by putting him out there knowing he can't win. Is there a scenario that exists where he's not the quarterback next year?
Not for me, and I know that's kind of low-hanging fruit for me when you say, well, get rid of Russell. I've heard that all season long of that he is washed, and I've got a chance to see this team up close and personal. Had a chance to go into the locker room on a daily basis and talk to a lot of guys. I mean, what the outside media and the local media have said about Russell, a lot of that stuff isn't true. And it was used to just stir up controversy. And, I mean, I can't tell you, I mean, from my kids' friends to I'm going on a school visit, Jason, and some kid comes up to me, hey, you're a former Bronco. I'm like, yeah. And then he rattles off all these things about Russell Wilson that I know that he's heard from somewhere else. And I get it. Russ hasn't been the same quarterback as he was in years past. And that's what the Broncos thought they were going to get. And no one didn't have a crystal ball to foresee that things would go this poorly.
Seattle did.
See, the problem in Seattle was, hey, they didn't have a run game, and then Russell wanted to be involved more as far as what the personnel was taking place. And I don't blame any quarterback that your legacy and your stats are built on who's around you. If you are a quarterback, you want to know if the team is going out to get you adequate wide receivers. What are you going to do in the run game? And, oh, by the way, what 5 guys are going to be protecting me? That wasn't the case in Seattle, and that's why Russell wanted to be more involved, and Pete didn't want that, right? And here's what I tell players when they come into this league. When you first come in, it's like a Jay-Z song. First they love you, then they hate you, then they love you again. That's exactly what happens to you as a player, and that's what's happened to Russell. So do I think his skills have diminished? No. My thing is that the system hasn't really fit him well in the offensive line. It told you from the very beginning. And I've got a stat sheet right here. I've been charting plays all season long. Even with the starters in the lineup, they were still having issues protecting him. Now, I'm not going to say those are the only reason and then just kind of absolve Russell of any wrongdoing. No. And watching him on Christmas Day throw 3 interceptions, I was frustrated. I was upset because I felt as though Russell was going to press too much, trying to feed Courtland Sutton. And that is exactly what he did, and that kind of led to the demise of the Broncos on Christmas Day.
Talking with Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, Touchdown Denver podcast. He hosts it, giving us some time on the show. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like you're absolving him a little. It sounds like because look, you know the saying, players win, coaches lose. You know, and to me, it feels like, you know, you could bring Sean Payton. So let me ask you this then. Sean Payton gets in touch with the owner of the Broncos, says, you know what, give me this much money. I've watched, like you, he's watched Russell Wilson. He knows the game, offensively, obviously very smart. And he says, I can fix it. You think they go hire Sean Payton and give him whatever he wants?
Absolutely, and here's why.
Do you think he's right? Do you think Sean Payton can fix it?
Yeah, I definitely believe so. And once again, here's why. Let's look at what he was able to do in New Orleans, right? With Drew Brees, that quarterback that the Chargers said, you know what, we're going to kick him to the curb, you know, because we have Phillip Rivers, right? But with Drew Brees, who's not a 6'1" quarterback, he's not that mobile, they were able to amass a lot of chunk plays in that passing game. They built that offensive line. They added wide receivers outside the numbers and the tight end position. And here's what I know about Sean Payton. Sean Payton is a Bill Parcells type of guy. I played for Bill Parcells. That's a no-nonsense type of guy. And he's going to come in and instill accountability if the Broncos were to go in that direction. And here's the great part about it, right? Look at the Jets and the issues that they're having with Zach Wilson, drafting quarterbacks in the first round, thinking that's going to be the future of your organization. No, the idea is finding a proven guy that still has gas in his tank. You tweak a couple things here and there. Are you telling me, right? Really think about this. Looking at the offensive line the way that it is, looking at having injuries across the board, just like a lot of teams, the Rams are included as well, that Sean Payton can't come in and take a veteran quarterback and become a better team. He did the same thing when Drew Brees hurt his hand. Teddy Bridgewater came in and Teddy went, 5-0 or 5-1 in his starts. I really don't count that game in Los Angeles because he was coming in as a backup. But look what he did with Teddy Bridgewater. And I would dare to say that Russell Wilson is a better quarterback and a quarterback option than Teddy Bridgewater. So how could anyone dispute the fact that Sean Payton would come in and he would get this thing right?
I don't know. What
do you don't know?
Look, what I tell you is what I watch with my eyes. You can give me, and I'm not necessarily into the whole thing of, whether his teammates like him or not or any of that stuff. You know what guys hate? They hate losing. So I don't necessarily buy into the idea that this is something that can't be turned around because, the guys in the locker room are tired of him or don't like him or don't go to his birthday party when Sierra invites him. I'm not necessarily saying that. It's just hard to watch the on-field product, which I know you're going to say is part of it is play calling and the offensive scheme and all of that. It's hard for me to watch him and say, this looks like a guy that's not just a year removed from Seattle. He looks like he's so far removed from his best days in Seattle that observational fact tells me that you can't win with him. Now, you're going to tell me you can if you get the right system and the right guys around him, that he's at a stage in his career where, and I always say this about NFL quarterbacks. I'm sure I've said it to you. Two types of quarterbacks in the league. There's quarterbacks that can elevate the receivers around them, and then there's quarterbacks who need receivers to elevate them. Now we're starting to say, I think, that Wilson might be the quarterback that needs better receivers, better players around him to elevate him, whereas maybe 4 years ago, he was a guy that could elevate lesser talented players, in his game. Am I wrong in looking at it that way?
No, you're not, because that is what your eyes are telling you. And I can't tell you wrong for what you see. But when I look at the situation, when we look at a guy that has had a lot of accuracy over his career, ball placement was a key. To me, wide receiver and quarterback go hand in hand. You need one, or you can't have one without the other. So when I see Russell Wilson, he's throwing some dimes this year, but he's throwing some bad balls this year, and so has a lot of quarterbacks. Once again, I go back to the build-out of the scheme. The scheme wasn't fit for him. And I know this scheme because, one, I practiced against it under Mike Shanahan, and two, I coached against it being a member of the 49ers organization to know exactly how you start to get this system going. This is a system that's predicated on running the ball to pass the ball, not pass the ball to run the pass. This Broncos offensive line hasn't done a great job in pass pro, and they definitely haven't done a great job in run blocking. So much so, a week ago against, I think it was Arizona Cardinals, they had to start pulling their guards and offensive linemen because they could not pass pro just to give them some kind of relief. I'm just saying this. There's no way that you tell me that Russell Wilson over the past couple of years under Brian Schottenheimer and some other offensive coordinators come to Denver Broncos and forget how to play the quarterback position. I would find that hard to believe. If you told me that he was concussed several times and maybe that was a problem, maybe I will buy that. But I just know how system and quarterback have to be on the same page. If they're not, it's going to be a problem. And think about what we know. When we think about the first game of the season against the Seattle Seahawks, they opted to take the ball out of Russell's hands in favor of Matt McManus kicking a long field goal. And then they had to switch offensive coordinators mid-season, Jason, mid-season. So, yes, I'm not saying that it's not just Russ. He has his faults. But come on, let's be totally honest about the situation. How many quarterbacks have we seen struggle this year because bad offensive line, they can't run the ball, right? And you're watching the game tonight when you talk about the Colts going against the Chargers. I mean, they're on Nick Foles. He throws 3 interceptions, right? Let's be totally honest about this situation, right? So Matt Ryan was benched because no Jonathan Taylor. They couldn't protect him. He was turning the ball over. Now you insert, Nick Foles, same thing. What's happening with Tom Brady in Tampa? The same thing. And you look at Aaron Rodgers, that bad guy Aaron Rodgers, he's going through the same thing. It's no different with Tua Tagovailoa. right? It's the same thing. These are quarterback issues, right? But I would rather have a guy like Mike McDaniels than having Nathaniel Hackett because I've been around it. I've coached alongside him, so I know what he's capable of. So if the Broncos are able to bring in a guy that can hold these guys accountable and he has a great scheme, boom, the Broncos are off and running.
This is a new ownership group, so I don't know how well you know the intricacies of what's going on the inside in terms of ownership. But do they strike you as the type that would basically go to Sean Payton and hand him a blank check?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And that's what they did with the Russell deal. Because everyone's saying, okay, well, hey, look at Russell. They're paying him so much money. I mean, Joe Buck said it himself, right? They're paying Russell so much money. That's what they do in the NFL. They pay quarterbacks a lot of money. And sometimes they pay bad quarterbacks a lot of money. So let's not start there, right? Let's just talk about the situation the Broncos were in. They were tired of the quarterback speed dating carousel. So they say, okay, we finally traded for a guy that we know is a proven guy in this league. He has 2 more years on his deal. We're hoping that he plays well, but we want to go ahead and get him and ink him to a deal before maybe Lamar Jackson signed his deal. And then now we have to pay him more money. So no one really saw this happening the way that it played out. It's unfortunate for the Broncos. They were in a position where they couldn't wait, and they had to sign Russ.
Before I go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, because you know people in this organization, you've been around it enough. Did you know Ronnie Hillman?
Yes, I actually was part of the Broncos fellowship coaching when they went to Super Bowl 50. So I got a chance to know him during the coaching internship. And you know what, man? It's sad. The guy was only 31 years old. Gone too soon. We've heard that all too frequently. And I just think about, my fondest memory of him, man, is his smile. It's just like Demaryius Thomas. When those two guys came in the room, no matter what was going on, the one thing you saw was their big smile. And Broncos country, man, they're hurting. And this is why it's crazy. We lose DT a year ago. Then we lose Ronnie. Then we watch what happened to the Broncos on Christmas Day, and then the firing of Nathaniel Hackett, man. So it's a bad time here in Broncos country.
Nick Ferguson, I always appreciate your input and your insights. You can come at it from a level that I could never in my wildest imagination come at it from, and that's why I have you on the show. Nick Ferguson is former NFL safety, Touchdown Denver podcast host. Check him out there as well. Thank you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Go.
Oh, God. No Vikings. No. After what they... No. I can't. I got to go. We'll wrap up the hour next. All right, getting set to wrap things up. Thanks to producer, engineer extraordinaire Brian McDonald working the show tonight in H-Town. See, like that? I got the lingo, isn't that what they call it? H-Town? Yeah, see? H-Town. Exactly. By the way, have you been watching wrestling? Oh, is it? It's a best of? It's weak. What do you think's gonna happen at the on Friday Night SmackDown with Cena and really? You think they're bringing Cena back to lose? Yeah. That's true. I want to know who's going to be the one to knock off Roman Reigns. Yeah. Royal Rumble right around the corner. It's in the same state. But your state is the size of most countries. Yeah. You going to go? Okay. I'm sure my buddy Michelle Beadle will be there. Beads loves wrestling. It's going to do it for us. We're back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I'm Jason. Bye. Thank you, my friend. I'll see you Wednesday. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. For those watching on the video side, should I show you Dookie? Oh, if you look in the distance, you'll see my poor beleaguered puggle. Come here, Papa Dukes. Oh, I know. You've seen better days. Yeah, he unfortunately got attacked by another dog. Sit. He got attacked by another dog. And now he has to wear the cone of shame. Well, he's like, I'm done with you. So, yeah, that's Dookie, my beleaguered puggle. Seen better days. He's 12 years old, and he got his you-know-what kicked by a French bulldog. Come on! You got to do better than that. Anyways, thanks to everybody who watched on the video side tonight. I'll catch you back here tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app, or right here on Twitch or any other video platform we happen to be on. See y'all later. Have a great night.